Well, this has pretty much been a screwed up month for me. I have been dragged around to my family business and going all over the East Coast, and I just have not had a chance to do a video in the middle of the month. Not to mention that it has been stressing me, and it's like I really don't want to do this business anymore. And I've already gotten another job, and they're making me do this evaluation, which I've already answered over literally 1,000 questions, a lot of them redundant, and I'm just glad that that's almost over. Now I have to do a one-on-one interview tomorrow. I mean, I've already got the job, but like I said, I have to do an evaluation. So anyway, but it seems that the drama hasn't just been with me; it's also been in the furry fandom as well. The first one has to do with a website that I used to go to, pounce.org, which is a furry dating service, which you would usually post an ad of yourself, like describe yourself, what you like, what you don't like, and usually find someone that hooks up with you. But they recently decided to shut down because of a bill that was passed in Congress not too long ago, which is the Allow States and Victims to Fight Online Sex Trafficking Act, or FOSTA. Now, it passed the U.S. Senate last Wednesday, and this bill, it was intended to assist victims of sex trafficking by allowing them to sue websites that facilitated their abuse. Now, of course, this presents a big legal problem for pounce.org. And while their site is not intended for sex trafficking or anything like that, they're not taking any chances and have decided to seek legal advice to try to find out how they interpret this law, or if I assume that it's going to be a law, if it hasn't been signed yet. But they did post a more elaborate explanation earlier today. And it says, and I quote, "We don't promote prostitution or sex trafficking. We're a personal website for the furry community. Our goal was to allow members of our community to have a personal site dedicated solely to the community, and we've tried to serve our community well. The problem is, with limited resources and a small volunteer staff, our risk for operating the site has now significantly increased. Now, if someone posts an ad looking to exchange sex for something to pounce.org and we don't catch it, is that facilitating prostitution? Is it enough to simply retrain our volunteer staff and update our terms of service?" So that is a legitimate concern for them. And I went to the Congress website, congress.gov, and I pulled up this bill and took a look through it, and it has a summary of what's in the bill. And this bill updates Section 230 of the Communications Act of 1934. And this bill would amend the Federal Criminal Code to add a new section that imposes penalties, which could be a fine or a prison term of up to 10 years or both, for a person who, using a facility or means of interstate or foreign commerce, owns, manages, or operates an interactive computer service, or attempts or conspires to do so to promote and facilitate the prostitution of another person. And it also has enhanced penalties, which bumps the jail time to up to 25 years for a person who commits the offense in one of the following aggravating circumstances. 1, promotes or facilitates the prostitution of 5 or more persons, or 2, acts with reckless disregard that such conduct contributes to sex trafficking. Now, with Pals.org, that second part I wouldn't be concerned about, because it pretty much means that you really don't care what happens to your website, and you have no oversight over it. But they have a terms of service, and I'm sure that they have some moderation over their ads. But you never know with laws. You can easily get dragged into something like this for some bullshit reason. And the bill goes on to say a person injured by an aggravated offense may recover damages and attorney's fees in a federal civil action. What else in here? The amendments apply regardless of whether alleged conduct occurs before, on, or after this bill's enactment. So even if it happened before this bill got passed, then you would still be in violation. So, yeah, Pounce.org is making the right move. They need to interpret what this means for them. As a matter of fact, Craigslist did the same thing for their personal section. They shut it down until they can figure out what this means. And it's really not worth risking jail time over this. But I know furries are smarter than this to do such a thing, but you never know. And now we move on to something similar, which is an update to a story that we've been following for the past few months, and unfortunately has had a bad ending. We've been following R.C. Fox, who has been charged with criminal possession of child pornography back in October. He had committed suicide last week, which he had parked his car on the side of the road of an unpopulated area and released a hazardous chemical. They didn't say what that chemical was, but a hazmat team had to be dispatched. Now, this had happened before he could be convicted of the charge against him. And now, I want to note that he was going to plead guilty as part of a plea bargain. And I'll explain in a moment why that does not necessarily mean that he's guilty of this, as contradictory as that sounds. But I'll get to that in just a moment. But let me finish this. There was a source who knew him that indicated that he regretted taking this plea bargain. That's because that his lawyer had found evidence that none of the child porn rated content was his. Let me repeat that. None of the child pornography was his. And yes, I know he can still be convicted just because it's on his computer, but that's just a screwed up law. Now, since he already took the plea bargain, he would have had to appeal the ruling, but he had to get $25,000 in order to appeal that, but he doesn't have that kind of money. So, because of this, he believed that by being convicted of the crime, he believed that it would put his mother's job in jeopardy, which she works as a school teacher, and he thought that would affect her because she is in a public position, and with him having a crime like this against him, that would not reflect good. That would not reflect good on her. So with the isolation that he experienced because of the crime that he had been charged with, and the factors that were already mentioned, it led him to do what he did. On top of that, he also sold his fursuit to another furry, and the fursona had been renamed to Agave. So his suit is now in someone else's possession under a new name. But I have to go to what I said earlier about why this might not necessarily mean that he is guilty of this. Because I've been seeing a lot of Twitter comments from furries about how they're saying, "Oh, good riddance, you deserve this." Which is despicable behavior. I just can't stand it when people like this just shit on someone who has been accused of a crime but had not necessarily been proven guilty. So why would someone plead guilty to something that they're innocent of? Well, I took a look at this comment from a former assistant professor of law who had been practicing as a lawyer for 15 plus years, who said the psychology of false confessions is complex, but there's a simple reason that many people who may be innocent can consciously plead guilty. That is because if you go to trial and lose, the penalties against you could be much more severe. There is a very real trial penalty for exercising your right to a trial. And this lawyer had a client who was offered 5 years at 50% to plead out an aggravated battery before a trial, refused to say he did something that he hadn't done, and ended up getting 18 years at 85%, which is 15.3 years. If he had taken the deal, he would have been out by now. So that is pretty much why someone would plead guilty when they didn't commit a crime. Because if they plead innocent and they're found guilty, then they're going to end up spending a lot more time in jail. And with the uncertainty of a trial, that can definitely weigh in on someone's decision, and they think that it's better to take the guilty plea. There is a reason why 12 Angry Men is one of my favorite movies of all time, because it tells you to think. Do not go with this mob mentality. Do not rush to decisions. You have to take everything into account. Look into every detail. And if you haven't watched that movie, I highly suggest you do so. It's a very interesting movie, and it has taught me to think critically. So I again say to every single furry who thought that would be a good idea to celebrate this guy's death just because he was accused of something, even though that he wasn't convicted of it. You have to think. You cannot go with a mob mentality. Remember, innocent until proven guilty. With a major furry con coming up, I might as well go into some information about it. Furry Week in Atlanta, FWA. They do note that the schedule is still being worked on, but they have posted some stuff. Your opening ceremonies will be on Thursday at 5:30 in main events. Dance competition auditions will be at 6:30 at Panels Dock 3. We got a weird name for this one, Silent Disco, which is going to be DJed by Bass Cat and hope I'm saying this right, Midakai. And the rest of the dances will be DJed by Doc Drakes, Abraxo, Vander, Nullstruct, one of the DJ I definitely know personally, and no one important. There are some After Dark panels, so they haven't given them a name. Dealer's Den, our Artist Alley will open at 10 a.m. And will, they've been given their own rooms. There will be some more Furry dance competition auditions going from 10:30 to 1 in main events. You got your own escape room. I never tried one of these, but it's been a growing trend lately. If you don't know what an escape room is that it's pretty much you're given a bunch of puzzles that you're supposed to figure out within a time limit in order to escape a room. Let's see. There's a bunch of meet and greets throughout noon to 2. First of games at 3 at main events. A lot more meet and greets throughout the afternoon. And I do mean a lot of them. Seriously, go into Friday at the schedule. How many meet and greets are there? Let me see. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. There's 19 meet and greets all on a Friday. Let's see. What else do we got? The dances will be DJ'd by Vinny, Beta Monkey, Scroy, Runetooth, and Ear Velvet. And again, there's some After Dark panels, but once again, none of them have been given a name. Saturday, more meet and greets. There's 3 of them at 10:30. So that makes it 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. How many meet and greets do you need? You must have met everybody by now. Let's see, but anyway. We also, well, here's an interesting one. Discussing the furry fandom with non-furries. Somewhat similar to furries in the media. But now this is just non-furries in general. And it's pretty much, for me, it would be under the same rules as it would with talking to media, just without all the credentials and stuff, and without the entertainment versus news. But for me, it's pretty much the same rules. Let's see. What else do we got here? Charity auction at 3:30, going to 5:30 in main events room. Now, what's this one? Mascot fursuiting. A bit redundant. But the description says this will be a discussion panel to help explain the art of mascotting, as well as how fursuiting can be a beacon towards your goal of becoming a mascot. Okay, so trying to link an avenue from fursuiter to mascot. Okay, I can see that. Definitely has got me down that path. The Popufur Survival Guide. Now, is that for Popufurs themselves, or... Yeah, it's if you become a Popufur, how do you handle it? But I don't know if anyone would even consider themselves a Popufur. What do you define that as? I mean, is there a certain number of furries that need to come to you to make you a Popufur? It's a topic I've discussed several times before. There's another silent disco at 7, which will be DJ'd by Freya, Norfair, and Ear Velvet. And that is actually going to be held in the Atrium level lobby. First dance competition at 9 p.m. going to 11:30 in main events. And do they have any dances on Saturday? I thought they would have. Yes, they do. They just won't start until midnight. As a matter of fact, it's going till 4 a.m. And DJs will be Curl Talk, Hathix Raging, Fen, Kaiza. For Sunday, Dealer's Den, Arts Alley will be at 10, and both of them will close at 5. Let's see, Fursuit Mingle at 11:30 a.m. Which I almost forgot. Is there a Fursuit Parade or Menagerie going on? I can't believe I missed something like that. I'm looking at Saturday and I don't see anything. So is this Mingle on a Sunday going to be their thing? I'm going to look into a little more detail on that because it doesn't have a description. But that's a little different. There's usually something on a Saturday, but I don't see it on here. So. Let's see. Floor Wars will be at 2 p.m. going to 4:30 at main events. Someone is doing a panel on introduction to K-pop. Okay. I don't see how that's related to furry, but okay. Here's one that everyone needs. Conquering post-con depression once and for all. That's something that I need. Because, especially in your first few years, it sucks having it. Okay. Nowadays, I kind of gotten over it. Closing ceremonies at 5:30 to 6:30. And your last DJs will be Robbie, Bass Cat, Norfair, and Darrow Huskers. Alright, so that is a run through of the schedule. And now I need to... Why did I add an extra G to that? Now I need to go through some more info, the charity and the guests of honor. Let's do guests of honor first. They're going to have Stripe, Strype, as the first guest of honor for this year. And ours, who comes from Ontario, Canada, is known for his affinity for drawing robots and pretty ladies and combinations thereof. He's been with the fandom since 2003. That's a long time. And the other guest of honor is Kazul, who's a cosplayer from Salt Lake City, Utah. Has been an artist since a young age and has continued to grow the breadth and depth of her skills through her whole life. She's learned from her seamstress mother and sculptor grandmother, and began constructing costumes in college, starting with a cougar mascot for her school juggling club. So that is those are the guests of honor. There's usually a charity. Where is it? Yep, here it is. Charity is a conservator center. Founded in 1999 by Douglas Evans and Mindy Stinner. They're housed in Burlington, North Carolina. Somewhere between Greensboro and Durham, which is about a couple of hours away from me. And the center reconnects people with wildlife by introducing visitors to rare, threatened, and endangered species up close and personal. The visitor can go on guided tours to see the animals, which can allow views as close as 5 feet away, and learn the animals' personalities and the species they represent and how they came to live at the conservancy. So they'll be there throughout the weekend. And by the way, if you have not registered yet, at the door it is going to be $65 to attend. 115 sponsoring, 160 is super sponsor, and God level is 300. Except that God level is not going to be available at the door. For single days, Thursday, Sunday, both of them are going to be $30. Friday is $35. Saturday is $40. For 1 day admission, a child under 6, a child under 10 with a paid chaperone is free. So that's a lot of the info from Furry Week in Atlanta, and now we'll go to what's coming up for the upcoming month of April. Already said Furry Week in Atlanta from the 5th to the 8th. Same weekend, Motor City FurCon in Detroit, Michigan. Or it's in the suburb known as Novi. 13th to the 16th, Furry Weekend Holland, which will be in the Netherlands. 20th to the 22nd, we have Furthermore in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. We have Fernion, which is in Madrid, Spain. And we have Wild Nights from the 26th to May 1st over in Oklahoma. And finally, I have Pine Fur Con from the 27th to the 29th over in South Portland, Maine. With one of the conventions I mentioned, Furthermore, I have attended for the past few years. I'm not going to be at Furthermore this year for a couple reasons. One, because of my new job coming up, and two is well, honestly, the past couple times I've been at Furthermore, I don't feel like that there's been much going on that is of interest to me. I know it's a small space and it's a small con, but I don't feel like that I have been melding into this con very well, so I'm not going to be attending this one this year. So that's pretty much it. But I do have another con coming up, and that's BLFC in Reno, which actually fits in perfectly to my schedule. So that is it. I've already gone for almost half an hour. This Dragon's Mouth is now closing.